Time to get extreme! Get your lace stacks and your taste cookies. We're going to the 21st century!
Now available in paperback, John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Pick up your copy of John Haynes at Death's Door at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere.
Hi everyone, it's Shawn here with my Tate's Cookies and my Lay's Stacks for this totally extreme 21st century comic review. Now, I've gone extreme talking about those old 90s comics, but when I went out here and picked up the first issue of Metalshade, it took me back to the extreme 90s and all of those awesome comics done by legendary comic artists like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, and Rob Liefeld. And your Metalshade really reminds me of how awesome those comics were and really capture the spirit of those old action-packed Jim Lee 90s comics like X-Men and Wildcats, while giving us a fresh 21st century story that really relates to today. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about this zero issue of Metalshade, how it gives us a very compelling story that really relates to today, all while capturing the spirit of those great 90s comics I used to buy at the store back when I used to buy comics on Fordham Road. Now, this Metalshade number 0 cover is a fantastic wraparound which features the entire cast, and you're going to get to meet them all in this 0 issue that is one of the best comics of 2022. If you want to know how to introduce new readers to a story, Isaac Bell does a fantastic job with Alexa Lowe of showing you how to introduce a new team to new readers with this absolutely fantastic 0 issue. Now, this 0 issue opens up with a great 2-page spread, which really just introduces us to the premise in just 2 pages. Now, this premise opens up and it reminds me a lot of the X-Men, where we're on this Necronius Prime, the capital city of this Necro world, a vast technocratic empire united under the precepts of a computer so hyper-advanced it's worshipped as a god. So this really reminds me a lot of Blade Runner, but as we start to get introduced to the characters, it really starts to remind me of the X-Men. Now, I really like how the villain of this technocratic empire, Namron, really reminds me of Magneto, and then you have Abacus, who reminds me of Professor X, and I love the contrast between the two. I love the fact that the leader of the Metalshade is named Abacus because he's representing old technology in this new technocratic society where the old gods have died and have been replaced by this supercomputer that it's a god, and there's a bit, and you have your Namron trying to go out here and get Abacus to join him, and this is his last chance. And meanwhile, all this is going on, we have this young lady out here hacking the system and listening to this debate. Just fantastic opening 2 pages that do a great job of introducing us to the main characters, introducing us to the primary conflict, and giving us that reason to care, because the visuals here are just that strong that they just draw you in almost immediately into the story, and you definitely want to read more right after this 2-page spread, which presents us with just, again, a rich, multidimensional story of this technocratic society. And as we go on to the 2nd page, we see her still hacking into this debate. We get introduced to this god computer, the optimal system. Then we have a little picture scene of Grumbler chewing on the cables, which is kind of cute and fun. And again, introducing us to this world and introducing us to the primary conflict in 4 pages. Just a fantastic opening and a great setup to some great characters, and we get introduced to all of these characters in some very fantastic visuals. Now, I really love this double page spread with this anglerfish rocket. I mean, this is just so cool. I mean, it's an anglerfish rocket flying through this technocratic world as a spaceship, and it's just an awesome visual overall that opens up this scene and just it starts to introduce us to the foot soldiers who are going to get ready to go on the ground on this mission. And again, just fantastic visual designs on all of these characters. And I love that the fact that we get introduced to practically everyone. And as the action goes on, we get introduced to Visage as she's leading the assault. And again, great visual designs that really pop. Just absolutely fantastic visuals. And I don't want to give away too much of Metalshade, but I will say this. This is one of the best comics of 2022. And this Zero issue does an absolutely amazing job of introducing us to all of these characters, all of their stories, and starts to let us see the overall bigger picture of the team forming, and also gives us some insight into many of the characters' backgrounds, their motivations, and their reasons for wanting to go out here and fight against this whole technocratic society, and looking to try to go out here and fight against this whole organization, which is run by this Namron, who, again, he really reminds me of a little bit of Magneto, but he also reminds me of Hellspawn from Wildcats. But the premise for this series is just absolutely fun, and you definitely are going to enjoy this book because the story here is just absolutely compelling. The visuals are great, and we get an opening to get to know each of these characters and their backstories, and we get to see these characters further develop later on in the first issue. But this Zero issue just takes us into the foundation for the premise, and this whole Zero issue is an excellent entry point for any new reader. If you've never read the first issue of Metalshade, you will be able to get right into the story from this whole Zero issue. And this Zero issue, again, just a beautifully done art, beautifully done covers. I would love to have your Isaac and Alexa do an Isis pin up, because this art, the way they draw women, is just absolutely fantastic. And I would love to get in touch with them and have them do an Isis pinup for me for an upcoming Isis series book, because I would love to see Isis rendered by Isaac and Alexa. I mean, their art is, again, absolutely fantastic and captures that heart of those awesome extreme 90s books. But this one has a lot more depth, a lot more layers, and a lot more substance. And in some ways, I see it as a commentary on things like people talk about this great reset that some conspiracy theorists talk about. I mean, he's talking because you've got your Namron talking about how he wants to go out here and eliminate a lot of the population. And then you have people in the population like that form the team of the Metalshade looking to go out here and fight him and his elitist ideas. I mean, just a lot of substance and a lot of layers to the storytelling here that makes for a very compelling Zero issue. A Zero issue I highly recommend you go out here and pick up, because this is one of the best comics of 2022. Now, I hear many comics YouTubers complaining about how there are so many bad comics out there, but when I go out here and I look for comics, I just find fantastic ones like Metalshade, and these are the kind of comics that if they were in the comic store, I know fans would pick them up, because people have been picking up this series on crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, and this series has done exceptionally well, and I definitely am anticipating picking up the next issue of Metalshade, because this book is just so far out there with all of the crazy visuals and the unique designs that I just have to go out here and get that next issue. I mean, I love all of these fantastic designs, and I could easily see these designs being turned into action figures, and I could easily see this being turned into a great animated series like X-Men was in 1992. I mean, there's just so much great storytelling here and such a great premise that you really feel like you want to read more of this series, and you just get excited because the visuals are just that fantastic. The colors really pop on this book, and when you get cool concepts like an anglerfish spaceship, you know you're in for something awesome. And in this book just has so much awesome stuff in it that I don't want to spoil it. I mean, these doubles page spreads are just so filled with so much fantastic visuals. I don't want to spoil this book. That's why I don't want to show so much of it, because in order for you to really enjoy this book, you need to read the whole thing yourself and experience it firsthand. And I believe the best way to experience this book was in a paper format, and I'm still hitting myself over the head for not putting in a pledge for the paper, because I really believe that if I really had the paper book to hold in my hands, that would be an even more exciting experience than reading the digital version and sharing the digital version. The digital version is great, but the paper version I know would practically blow me away, because this cover really reminds me of X-Men #1, but the visuals on this one are just absolutely fantastic and just blow the doors even off Jim Lee's art. I mean, that's how great this book is. And again, this is one that I highly recommend you go out here and get. The next time they do have a Kickstarter, Isaac and Alexa, I'm definitely putting in a pledge to get the paper copies, because this is a book I want to add to my collection as paper copies, because this book is just absolutely fantastic, and you will definitely not be disappointed, because while people complain on many comic YouTube channels about all these bad comics, this is one of the best ones out there, and you really are missing out on a treat if you don't pick up Metalshade. This is one you want to pick up, because I know if this book were out in the 90s and this was out during the time when Image was at its height of its popularity, this book would be a million seller, and your Metalshade is on its way to becoming a top comic. And I really believe that this book is going to be one of the big next level books of the 21st century. Now, if you want to pick up my first comic, XTREEME, No Good Deed, you can find that book on Kindle for 99 cents on Amazon.com. And if you want to pick up some of my action-packed fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the XTREEME series, the John Haynes series, and books in the Spinsterella trilogy and my vampire novel, Eternal Night, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and other online booksellers in paperback, and you can also find them on digital formats like Kindle and on other online digital booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me be able to go out here and buy more great indie comics from great indie creators like the creators of Metalshade, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App, so I can go out here and continue putting in pledges on great indie comics like Metalshade and be able to share those comics in reviews with viewers all over. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, XTREEME The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of XTREEME The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online booksellers everywhere today.